Boom. We are on another episode of Entrepreneur Kickback with my man, Dr. Bull.
What up?
Excuse
What
me.
up?
What up, man? Appreciate you coming along, man. It's been a minute. We've been working at this for a little while, but we gonna make it happen. I'm relentless when it comes to this. Like we gonna make it happen.
Yeah, we made it shake this time. So I'm glad we're here.
Yeah.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh yeah. And I appreciate your time. Forgive me, y'all. You know what I'm saying? My boy sometimes he sings in the background, so y'all might hear him. Um, but welcome to the show. Also I'm rocking my Sorilla merch. You know what I'm saying? Drinksorilla.com. Check it out. Non-alcoholic sparkling tea beverage. Good shit. But um, but I want to get into it, man, because we're I'll give y'all guys a little backstory. You know, we're part of a community, a morning show on Twitter called the Pre-Market Movers, which y'all probably hear it constantly in ads if you listen to this show. And our community is strong and powerful and intelligent. And I finally got the opportunity to meet Dr. Bill Bull on this community, and he has a lot of good insight. So I'm like, hey, man, he got to come on to the show. Let's chop it up. Let's speak to the audience, and let's share your story. And with that, for those who don't know you, can you describe yourself and your skill sets?
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's just break it down. Let's go down to the beginning. So, people who may not have heard the story that's part of the community can listen to it. So, I grew up in California, born and raised out there until I was about 12 years old. It's funny how I grew up because my mom. You might hear my puppies. I have Frenchies and stuff like that. So if you hear them
Mhm.
barking, that's them. But my mom, she she had three kids before she had me, right? And that's when my dad got with her and stuff. But during that time, my dad was a gangbanger and a heroin addict since the age of 15. So at that time, when I was born into pretty much a gang-filled household. My dad was, a Sereno. My uncle was in the Mexican mafia. My older brother was actually in a rival gang from what my dad was. So you can just imagine the hostility and the environment that that was there, right? Constantly seeing, physical altercations between my dad and my brother, or, things like that, just because of the way things were set up where I lived. Um, so, seeing all that, my dad decided to change his life. He went into a men's home and went into an inpatient rehab for about 3 years. And during that time, he actually changed his whole trajectory about his life and did a complete 180. And actually, he became a pastor. He became ordained as a minister, and he moved to Texas. When he came to move to Texas, I was still living in California at the time. He moved to Texas when I was about 8 years old. About 8 years old, and he didn't get custody of me until I was 12. Moved out here in Texas, and constantly in school, I was still thinking, um, life out here was like it was in California. It was completely different. A lot more people were a lot more respectful. People were saying hi to you, and people were talking to me, and I was like, man, don't. What are you talking to me for? Like, don't talk to me. I don't know you like that. Like, where are you from? Like, stuff like that, just because of the way that I grew up, right? And so my dad had to just reevaluate the way that I was going down in life, and he helped me basically rethink the life and the path that I was going down. Um, like I said, constantly getting into fights in school and doing just dumb stuff. I was playing sports. I did all that stuff. I was smart in school. I wasn't dumb or anything. I didn't try, so it wasn't that I if I tried, I'm sure I could have did a lot better as with anything else. Um, so at that time, graduated from high school. Actually, right after I got out of high school, I caught an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge, and actually, they couldn't find the weapon. So in the state of Texas, just with anything, even if there was a weapon or they had video of weapons and stuff like that, my actual charge was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without affirmative finding of a deadly weapon. Just a fancy way of just saying, we know you had a weapon, but we can't prove that you had a weapon. So, but we're still charging you with a second degree felony. And so they tried to give me 15 years off the rip. I'm 18 years old and I don't know anything about. This is the first time me being locked up, me being from California and being locked up in Texas. just hearing things about how California and Texas prisons, they don't really get along, and and stuff like that. So I end up getting a 2-year case. I end up catching being able to get 2 years. I consider it almost like a blessing. So I went to 2 years. Actually took some classes while I was in there. Went to college while I was in there. Did all that stuff. After I did that, got out, was doing good. Was blessed to be able to work in the oil field. Went out into the oil field, became a crane operator offshore for 5 years, and just pretty much worked 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Sometimes 4 weeks, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, a week off, and because I didn't have no kids at the time, my schedule was very flexible, so I was always at work, and it kind of kept me out of trouble. Once I lost that job, I used to ride street bikes a lot, and I caught another charge for attempted evading arrest on a motor vehicle, and I took off on the cops, and they found me like 30 minutes later at an apartment complex, and they couldn't prove that I was on the bike, but it was one of those things like, if I go to trial, they're going to say, hey, we're going to give you the max, like, just because of your record. I mean, I have other things on my record as well, like possession of a controlled substance, possession of a dangerous drug, burglary of a motor vehicle. These are not things that I'm proud of, but these are just adversities that I had to overcome that are continued. These are continuous adversities in my life, especially with trying to get a house or trying to get an apartment or trying to get a job. These are just obstacles that I had to get through to be able to want to be successful, right? And not let it hinder me down. So I did my little time. After I did that, I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I can't really get a job anywhere. Nobody really wants to hire me. If they do, it's, $12 an hour, $13 an hour. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it like that. Like I made money before, so I need to go touch some money at least, somewhere I'm able to live comfortably. And so I decided to start my own business, started my own business. Started off by, my dad was actually a painter during this time that, I grew up in California and stuff like that. That's what he did as a job. So I learned my painting skills from him and started, with fences and doing exteriors. And so I started just cleaning fences and staining them. And the profit margins I saw were like, wow, this is something I could do. And nobody's asking me, what they just care about if my work is good, if I do a good job, I complete the task, and I'm personable, which I like to think that I am to some aspect, and try to be versatile in that way. Was able to start my own business. And I've had my business since 2015. It's 2023. I've done some things, and I've kind of ventured off into selling turf and remodeling and stuff like that. And I'm trying to transition my life into not so much working as much as I have been, and trying to be able to hopefully the business be able to be on autopilot. So that's where I'm at in my life. And then, during that time in business, I didn't know anything about credit. I didn't know anything about money. I didn't know anything about anything. My dad knew about that stuff, but I understand why he never taught me, because I was a hard-headed individual, and I didn't want to. I learned at my own way, at my own pace, and nobody was going to tell me what to do. My ego was real big. I just thought I was untouchable, and God had to sit me down and tell me, you know what, Josh, you gotta chill and be still for a little bit. And just those little kind of things that happen in my life and those obstacles, kind of like helps me to think. And I really am a deep thinker. And while I was locked up, I did solitary confinement, for 6 months while I was in there, and just acting dumb and acting stupid, right? And just being a wild one, feeling like I have something to prove to somebody. But after I started my business, I was able to sit there and say, hey, you know what, this is not the way, this is not the life, this is not, I need to figure out how to do this and do this right. And started learning about taxes. I cut all my social media off from my phone, and all I did was focus on my work and my craft, and just trying to be better and changing my mindset. And that was the biggest thing, is trying to reprogram myself to think and be able to process things in a slower manner in my brain, so my reaction can be slower too, and that's where I learned a lot of my stuff. And I said, the only thing I'm gonna do is listen to podcasts and watch videos, take courses. And that's all I did. Is I took countless of courses of stocks and options, and some people just didn't resonate with me. And, some people were like, man, I really just watched this on YouTube. I just paid $200 for this. I just watched a 5-minute video and I learned everything that you just showed me. And so I started doing everything on myself. And, you know, during that time, I was able to accumulate what the market was. And I was just a value investor. I was just a long-term investor. I really didn't know much about trading. I understood, you know, trajectory, and I understood how to read like channels, but I never knew the language and the lingo of actual like day trading or, you know, trading options and stuff like that. And I was able to get on Clubhouse and expand my knowledge of things. And I was able to pick up on things very, very quickly. So I started getting into technical analysis, and I think I learned technical analysis probably within, you know, a good 3 to 4 months, just because that's all I did. I just studied and practiced and retested and tried so many different indicators. An indicator is something that you use on a chart that kind of helps you indicate which way a stock will go or not go, right? And there's so many different algorithms and things like that that can help you or hinder you. I mean, depending on the type of person you are, your personality, there's so many things that, because some indicators might not be right for you, right? And, you know, your homie might be using, you know, a Keltner channel, and you might be using Bollinger Bands. They do the same thing, but they read completely different. And you can read them completely different just based off of your own personality and the way that you think. And it's just, it's more of a psychological game. And so once I started doing that, I really started to understand myself a little bit better about the way that I handle things, the way that, like, taking responsibility for myself, taking more responsibility for my actions, and understanding that I'm not perfect, right? And nothing in this world is perfect, and nothing is ever going to be perfect. So, you know, I think a lot of people get upset and let them, and me, and this has happened, you know, I'll speak up for myself, but about wanting to having the idea of you being perfect and you being great and you being this. And at the end of the day, I realized that, man, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fall back. You know, recently, probably like a year and a half, I got separated from my kid's mother. And, you know, I was going through, you know, that mental thing. I kind of went downhill, kind of let my business go, blew my account. I basically had to start at ground zero, probably in the last year and a half, after everything that I built and everything that I went through. Like, mentally, I lost some of my drive. But the only thing that kept going is I knew that if I didn't quit, I wouldn't lose. Like, I couldn't swim, and I was just trying to float. I was just trying to just stay above water right now. I was just trying to stay above water because my mind, the capacity of my mind wasn't there. I was in a relationship for 6-7 years before that, and so it messes with you, because you used to think and you used to do things a different way. Now you got to readjust and you got to realign yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I realigned myself, you know, taking care of my body, taking care of my health, taking care of my mental health, and just reminding myself every single day that, you know what, we got to do it this way. Like, you can't stop. Like, no one is going to feel sorry for you. Like, you could say, I can have a homie right now saying, man, I'm about to lose my house. Damn, bro, what you going to do?
Yeah.
What you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the homie's over there and he's feeling all that stress. But I mean, if you need help, I can help you. But at the end of the day, like, I can't feel sorry for you, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can't feel sorry for me. No one's going to feel sorry for me. You know, so I just, that's in the back of my mind, and just knowing that, like, I have to be the one. I have to be like, if I want to win, I have to do what it takes to win. You know what I'm saying? I gotta do stuff when the game's not on, when nobody's watching you, when there's nobody in the stands, when there's no one else around, and you're by yourself and you're at home. Are you going to sit there and take a nap? Or are you going to sit there and I'm not saying none of that is wrong or anything like that, but that just goes back to, like, how hyper focused. Like, if you really want something and you really hyper focused about it, you're going to fight through all those emotions, because no matter what, emotions are just temporary. Physical, mental, you know, everything. That's all just temporary emotions. Because I could have got an argument with you know, my significant other a week ago, and I couldn't even tell you exactly what my emotions felt like. I knew I was a little upset, but they're never as strong later. Or, you know, they might bring back a bit of pain, or a little bit of this or a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, it's always just going to gradually kind of slow down. It's always going to gradually, you know, kind of just leak itself out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. Just try to think of things in a better way, and things will just pop in my head about just analogies, and I'm like, man, it's great. I'm like, man, this is exactly what I need to do, and I work good with analogies by comparing things, like, okay, and not so much comparing myself to other people's work or worth ethic. It's just comparing myself. Like, for instance, yesterday I was thinking about it, and I was scavenging for something, and I was like, man, like, and then I started brushing my teeth, and it was in the morning. I was like, am I going to be a scavenger? I'm going to be a hunter. That's literally just what I asked myself, just out of the blue. Like, and so I went to go look at the definition. Like, what's the difference? A scavenger is somebody who's going to sit there and he's going to scavenge for little scraps and little this and that and barely make it and do this. I'm like, man, a hunter is going to sit there. He's going to prepare. He's going to sharpen it, his bow and arrow or whatever, his knife or whatever he needs to hunt. He's going to prepare. He's going to sit there. He's going to know exactly this is the way that I want to do it. If it doesn't happen this way, we got to rebound this way. And so just being able to sit there and be a hunter and have a hunter mindset and not a scavenger mindset. And like, that's just something that I thought about yesterday. I'm like, man, just these things that help me motivate me to go back and go get everything that I feel like I deserve. You know what I'm saying? And that's everything that I work for is what I deserve. And so if I'm not putting in the work, then I can't go get it. I could wish for it, but I can't go get it.
Okay, it's a lot of things you said that caught my attention, because it's like, it sounds like to me you're turning your negatives into positives.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like I'll say, because you spent your time in prison, you learned to time block, and that's where your hyper focus comes from. So when you need to cut it on, there you go. So if I need to learn something real quick, you're able to cut off all distractions and learn that, because that's what you need to know. I found that's one thing that took away. And I also want people to take away from this here too, especially if you listen to multiple episodes. Pay attention to how many people, no matter what they do, they're in the stock market. Either they're long-term value investors or they're traders. Regardless, they're in the stock market. And if they're not in the stock market, they're learning how to get into the stock market. Even if they're not 10 toes down, they're in there. They got some money in play somewhere. I want the people who's listening and watching me on video too now to pay attention to that. Like, I'm thinking right now, I still got episodes in the hopper I ain't released. But the last 4 episodes I released, they were all traders as well, despite everything. And what you said, you learned your technical analysis in 3 months. 3. That's a season. That's a season. That's a report card marking. You can do that. And like you said, you took courses, but you realized, which I also share this sentiment too, you take a course and then you realize you already knew everything. You take that course and then you like, I know what he about to say. Yup, I'm right. Like, then that's when you realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't have took this course. I got to find another one, someone that resonates with me. And also I want to highlight that too. Because taking courses has this stigma sometimes from people who's trying to come up from a higher level. And true, there's a lot of oil snake out there. It is, absolutely. However, there is a lot of truth out there too. It's just a matter of vetting the right people. Mm-hmm. And it's going back to what you're saying, like, everybody's not perfect. As far as like learning, like on a course or something, if this person has this perception of you that they're like perfect and they get Ferraris and women and all this stuff, that's a red flag. Not saying it's not possible, but that's a red flag. Why would someone with that much success spend time talking to you? Maybe they don't even have the time. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Even if they wanted to. However, there are other people who don't display that knows more than you think. The most I've learned from one guy, he wears a regular sweater and he's a multimillionaire. and you wouldn't even tell by looking at him, you know. But Tyler, let me get off my soapbox there. You know, it's just this is the reason why I want to have you on, because it's like you you're in a, how I want to word this. You're in a place of where you're mastering yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know who you are, you understand who you are, and now you're at the point of execution. So now with that, you know, you became a painter. You know, you started painting. So what did painting lead to after that?
Oh, painting led into fences. I mean, I've always been good with like building things. So like it led into painting, led into fences, led into doing all just remodeling, period. But now I just specialize in just painting and fences. It's just easier that way. I know that just a lot better, and I just tell people it's less things to deal with too. And so I try to just perfect, one or two things, and that's it. And I just stick to that. And that's what I learned, it's good to know a lot of things, but it's not good to do all the things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to go experience that to realize that. You know what I mean? I tried that. Let's mark this off. This is not what I want to do. Or, I tried it this way. I tried it once, just like when your parents go take you out to eat and you just got to try it once. Do you like it? Oh, no, I tried it. That's not my thing. I'm good. I'm good. I don't want that no more.
Yeah.
But when it's good, this is what I want.
Okay. You said painting, and you said you found out painting is more lucrative than anything. Okay. So like, and you said painting fences, just fences.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you don't mind, how much could on an average, how much could you make painting one fence?
And just an average fence in the state of Texas is probably about 140 feet. And we'll just say if it's a 6-foot fence, we multiply that by 6, and then we multiply by 2 because there's 2 sides, right? So now you have a square footage. Now, what do you want to charge a square foot? So that I'd usually charge about $1.50, just depending on if it's a contractor or a homeowner or something like that. If a contractor's give me continuous work, just like you go in Sam's Club, you buy in bulk, they give you bulk work, and you get a different price than somebody else, depending on the relationship that you have with them. So like just on an average fence, I probably clear one day pressure washing, so that's probably like 2 or 3 hours. So that's 3 hours of work one day. You could probably pressure wash at least 2 to 3 fences in one day. And if you do that one day and you go do those 2 or 3 fences one day, that's easily a $3,000 day.
3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Or 2 days, so $1,500 a day to clean it and then do the work, and then you just buy the material. And then you get in good with somebody who you buy enough material, they're going to give you a good price because your continuous coming around. So then your prices and then your profit margin goes up.
Okay, so hearing that, I think I might want to try painting to see if I want to keep doing this. Keep doing it. So what would I need to start a paint service? And let's keep it in your lane. Simply painting fences. What I need to get started?
You'll want to get a spray rig. You could start off with the $200 spray rig. That's what I started off with. I started off with the $200 spray rig. It probably lasted me 2 years, and then I went and bought the big daddy, that $900 one. I mean, that's not the big one, but that's the bigger one, right? And so you can go spend $200 just to get started. $200. With that, you want to go get a pressure washer. You want to go buy a used pressure washer. That's what I did. I want to go buy a $250 pressure washer. That was $600 off of Facebook Marketplace. And so you got a pressure washer and a hose. You can go clean your fences with the pressure washer and hose, and then watch some YouTube videos on how to properly do it, because I messed up. and I had to fix my mistakes, you know. And I'll go ahead and give you out that tip now. If you're pressure washing a fence and you're trying to clean it, you want to start all the way from the top and all the way to the bottom and continue. If you miss, like even if you go on a diagonal a little bit and you miss a spot, you'll see it. Don't try to come back and get that spot. Come back from the bottom up and always continue to go. Always finish your strokes up and down. If you got to come back to something else, you got to start from the top and finish at the bottom. Because what that does is it'll leave lines inside of your, so you want to go with the grains of wherever your fence is, right? So if you're going against it, it's going to make, you're going to see those lines when you go and stain it. That's not something you want. A customer doesn't want to see that. So, you know, you do that and then you come and stain it, and, you know, you got to get some plastic or tarps and stuff like that. So you're probably looking, you know, start off with some tarps. You can start off with 2-3 tarps. You spend $100 on tarps, and, you know, so you're probably looking at a good, you can get away with starting less than $1,000. And then you go tell your customer, hey, listen, this is what we do. You know, it's 50% up front, 50% on the back end. You go get your 50% up front, you got money for your material. You know, you got money for material, you go buy your material, you might have a couple dollars left over because the profit margin on it, you already got everything that you need to utilize and execute. So you got that. And once you do that, then you're good. Then you just got to master the craft. You got the tools. Now you got to master your craft.
Dang, I get what you're saying. It's simplistic. It's simple. Keep it simple. Like, just master that craft, and like the profit margins, like just based off the numbers you gave me, because, well, okay, you in for less than 1,000. All right, cool. Now, once you got that, you can make money forever. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just saying, like, you know, but you know, there's days where you're not working. You know what I'm saying? You got to wait a couple of days for it because that's what's on the schedule. So it can get that way, but you also have to understand that if you're not consistent with, you know, if you ain't got no work, one thing that I did is I literally went on Google and typed in contractor, and I called every contractor in my area and said, hey, I do fences. You have any work for me? I do fences. You have any work for me? That's literally how I started. I called everybody. I had cold called every contractor probably in this area, and they probably all know my name just by doing that. And if they don't use me this week, they don't use me this year, they might get another call in another month or two, because it's time to call again. It's time to refresh their memory.
Okay. You snatched that right out my mouth. I was going to say, how do you find your customers? So you said straight cold calling. And I like that you said you didn't cold call like just random people. You cold call people who's already in the industry that may need your help, and they just don't realize it yet.
Mm-hmm. And insurance is low too, because the liability is not, it's not a big liability.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go spray on a windy day, right? You're not going to have, you don't want, you know, the most thing you might have to go do is go cover the neighbor's car with something that overspray is going to usually, you know, disappear by the time it makes it 20 feet, 15 feet. So.
Okay. Hey, that's dope. That's, man. See, every time I talk to someone, I'm like, damn, can I do that? Shoot. You know what I'm saying?
That's,
you know, I don't it sounds like something that like you said, it's something you have to master, because like you said, there's a certain way you have to spray, there's a certain technique, there's certain things you need to pay attention to. Like I said, you don't want to spray the car, you don't want to spray the concrete. Depending on where the fence is at, you don't want to spray the house, you know.
Yeah, so just preparation. So like around the house, you already go and put your tape and paper around it, and so that's already, you go prep everything first, and you know, you bring they have cardboard shields, so you know, or you cut up some cardboard and lay it under where you're spraying, and then you can even put a cardboard up on top just to minimize things. And as long as you know, if you go watch a couple of YouTube videos and just watch the way now it's just getting into the motion of the ocean, you know what I mean? It's just figuring out your groove now. Like, you know what to do. It's just like with trading, right? I could sit here and I could tell you, hey, enter a trade every time this price action on this stock gets here, and I could tell you no indicator. I could just tell you if it breaks above, you know, blah blah blah, and it goes to this price and it holds this next day, get into it and then get out and sell it at this price. And it's just brace off price. If I just tell you every time at this price, at this price, at this price, at these levels, if I tell you that, you may not execute it the way I execute it, right? Your timing might be off a little bit. But if you continue to do repetitions and you know exactly what to look for, then your timing is going to get better. Just as the same thing with your painting. When you got that finger on that trigger, your time is going to get better to come up and release it and put the pressure on it. Like it's going to be a subconscious movement to you at one point or another.
Okay, that's and it's like I like the way you articulate it. It's like there's really no shortcuts to it, but everything's available to you if you go out and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing special. You don't have to go out and get no certifications or anything. It's like if you want to do this, just go out and do it. And you're gonna need some seed money, but how many businesses you can start for less than $1,000? Like, truthfully, how many? And now you got my wheels turning because I say, there's ways you can rent this stuff. You know, you can rent the stuff for maybe one job, and you can make it even cheaper. Like you said, you got the used sprayer off Marketplace. You can go to pawn shops and try to find you one, and maybe they have a layaway program. You can get it that way. You can get into it slowly. Like it's a lot of ways you can cut it.
You can even start by renting it at Home Depot. They got a tool rental.
See?
So even if you don't have the $1,000, you might only have $400, but this one job, you get one good job, and you do it right, they're gonna pay you, right?
Yeah.
So you do it right. You can go rent that equipment. You can go rent the pressure washer for $70 a day. You can go rent the paint sprayer for $68 a day. I mean, that's $200. And you tell me, and that's when you go and say, hey, I need that deposit before I start. Here's, we'll just say it's 1,000 square foot. Here's $500. Well, 5 gallons of paint is going to cover X amount of square foot, 800 square foot, 900 square foot. Well, okay, it might need 2 coats. So we'll count the second coat as half the square footage. So I might need, 8 gallons for the whole total. So I'm going to go ahead and get 8 gallons. That's, less than $200. That's depending on what kind of stain or paint you get. That's less than $200. Material less than $200. You're still left with $100 to go buy yourself some lunch, put some gas in your car. I mean, there's so many ways to skin a cat. It's just, sometimes you have to skin it this way till you can get that knife sharpener. So you can skin it a little bit better.
Yeah, I'll share a story with you. Before I started doing this, like before I started 10 toes down in this, I had a courier company. I was delivering packages from business to business because I didn't want to deal with like the Ubers and the Lyfts and the Amazon Flexes. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to go long distance and the margins were better. So I started off, I had my car. I was riding around, I was doing that. Eventually the car broke down. So I still wanted to deliver. I had work I had to do. I rented the car for about 6 months just to keep that afloat. And it worked. I went to hire a car. I got a regular old car. It had insurance and everything. I gave that to the expediting company. Hey, can I keep driving? Yeah. Here's some packages. Go to Ohio. And I did that for 6 months, and that kept me going. Actually, that was the seed money for me to start this year. That's how I finalized getting all my equipment and stuff. So it's like, nice. You can skin it. You just got to think. You got to think. It's interesting. We talking a lot about painting, but your name is Dr. Bull. Like, I figured it'd be like Doc Colors or something. But
no, man. So I kind of just tell you how I got that. So, my real name is Josh Torres. So my last name is Torres. So when I play football, bull in Spanish was Toro. So they would always call me Toro or Bull. And so that's where I got that name. The doctor came from, when I started busting them up with technical analysis, and I became a technical analysis doctor. So we got Dr. Bull. So we got a little bit of best of both worlds. So, and I don't use a lot of indicators or anything. I like to keep things simple and simplify things as much as possible. My relationships, I like to keep simple. I like to keep everything simple and not to overcomplicate things, because I can get to overthinking and get to thinking about just things, astronomical things, and I just like to keep it simple.
You might have named this episode. You might have named this episode like, everything is, a lot of this stuff is freestyle sometimes, and it's like I just like to lead with my curiosity, because in the beginning I had all these questions written out, and it's like you sound stiff, and then also a lot of times you ask one question, someone gets comfortable, they start talking, and then all your questions get answered. Now you stuck like, oh. So I just stopped doing that. Lead with curiosity. Just get a feel for the person, who they are, and like what perception do they come from as far as their business, their mindset, and their perception. And yours is keeping it simple. Simple business, master that. Even when that translate into how you chart, which for those who's not into the stock market, it really plays into who you really are. You know who you are once you get in that stock market.
Mm-hmm.
And you say you keep it simple, even with your indicators. And with that, what indicators do you use? And this is for my stock people who are listening.
All right, so there's actually, I usually just look at a naked chart, right? So a naked chart is just a plain chart, which is candlesticks, and I'll just jump back from Heikin-Ashi to regular candlesticks. So I'll do that, and then if I'm really doing if I'm really prepping for a trade, I use TradingView as my charting, where I chart. So there's an indicator called a VPR, which is a volume profile range, is what it is, and it comes on the side of your chart. And if you go back and you look at the chart, so depending on what you have in your screen, just like if you pull up a minute chart or if you pull up a weekly chart within that same screen, the candlesticks are going to be different, right? But if you zoom in or zoom out on that chart, no matter what the time frame is, the volume indicator, the VPR, is going to tell you, it's almost going to show you where the support and resistance is. Like, it almost lines up perfectly, just based off of the bars that are on the side. So you can kind of see where most of the trading volume is. And so there's a blue and a yellow. The blue kind of indicates the buying volume. The yellow going to indicate the selling volume. And when those bars are a little bit longer, that's a lot of trading volume. A lot of trading volume is there's just a lot of trading going on, back and forth, buying and selling. So, but at that point, is like, who's going to win, right? And so, like, if you go and look at it, the smaller trading volume, if your stock is kind of going up or going down, so if it breaks that longer candlestick and there's smaller ones on the side, most likely it's going to run through those, because history has shown that there's not a lot of buying and selling in this area, just based off of that. So I'll kind of use that. Obviously, I use support and resistance. I'll use, I like to use patterns, and there's a way to do a potential price target on almost every pattern. One thing, and one that I really like to use is your bull flag. So if you know how to identify a bull flag, if you take from the top of the pole to the bottom of the pole and you move it to the bottom of the pole to where the bottom of the flag is, that is quote unquote a potential price target. And so, like, there's just a lot of things that I've learned to kind of help with that, and I'll just play around with those. It's not how I mainly make my trade, but I will use it as an indicator to say, hey, this is potentially what it could be, and that's what it is what has the highest potential. So I use that, and then I'll use your EMAs, right? I use the 13 and 21. Most people use the 20, I think the 10, and the 50 and the 100, or the 200, and I just use so I'll use the 13 and 21, and then I'll use the 50 and 200 as two indicators. And so, like, depending on if they cross or not, history has shown, you know, it could be a bullish signal or it could be a bearish signal, depending on which way I'm trading. So,
what's an EMA?
Estimated moving average.
Estimated moving average. Okay.
So there's an estimated moving average. There's a SMA, which is a simple moving average. There's different ones, but there's just a way they calculate moving average. So it's just an indicator. So if I obviously the moving average is just the price action, the average of that price action within that time frame. So within the last 20 days. So if I have a daily chart on and I use a 20-day EMA or SMA, it's just the average of what that stock price was in the last 20 days, right? Or the last 100 days, depending on which one you're using. So at that point, it's just the way it's calculated. That's like if I use a Keltner channel or use a Bollinger Bands, they're almost the exact same thing, but they just calculate just slightly different.
Okay. See, man, you need a technical analysis class or something, man. That's another one, man.
I try to keep it simple, man. You know, they got some experts out there, so I just stay to myself, man.
Well, it's cool because, like, yeah, because there are experts, and I get what you're saying. However, it's like the way you broke that down. You know, well, because I actively study. You know, I try to make it a part of my life. Actually, I'm sorry, I do make it a part of my life to pay attention to what's going on in the market and to get better at it. You know, and I encourage anybody who's tuning into this to do so as well. No matter your level, there are different kinds of trading styles, like what Dr. Bull just broke down is from a technical aspect. But you can also do a fundamental part as well, where you look into what the company's actually doing. You know, like, for example, I just found out 7-Eleven is getting ready to set up their charging station network, which you can play that into 7-Eleven. I don't know if 7-Eleven is publicly traded. But also you can pay attention to, okay, what network are they going with? Actually, you look at EV as a whole sector, maybe, because that's the infrastructure we're going to in the future. That's in the next 10 years, most of the cars is going to be EV. So
you might go with the ETF on that one, right?
Yeah, you go with the ETF, the exchange traded fund. So
because just with that real quick,
yeah.
you know, just with your EVs, just like with somebody who needs gas, like most people are not picky on where the gas station's at. Average person in America, right? That's like the same thing with the EV. Nobody cares about what company it is. They just care about, do they have the plug to fit into their vehicle, right? Do you have the gas for me to get where I need? So, you know, the more I think about that and the more like I kind of think about the EVs, I kind of think of it that way. Like there's going to be one person or two people that might come up on the top, but you're really going to have to stay on top of it, on that whole sector, just period, especially with it's a growth sector, but which ones are going to grow, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there's a little insight on that.
And another insight too, I just read that Ford just got the contract to turn the post office trucks into electric. Yeah, they got the deal for that. You know, and that's another fundamental analysis that we can pay attention to. Don't go out and just buy stuff. Please don't. But it gives you a direction to look, and then you can figure out how you want to play. You know, and like talk with your friends. Have friends or your family members or a community talk about it. Like I highly stress that enough. Like I was thinking about having an episode where we just sit down and talk about the market or something, you know, because iron sharpens iron. I found out this is very true. Like, I didn't know what an EMA was. I just found out, you know, I'm like, okay, because I normally use the simple moving averages. But now I got the EMA. It's like, all right, let me go back to the chart and let me see. Let me use this. Let me see if I can add this to my strategy. Because me personally, I'm still trying to find my way to technical analysis. I'm just trying stuff, you know, similar to how you simplified, painting the fence. Man, this is making me think of Karate Kid, bro.
Why is that?
Because if for those who've seen the original Karate Kid,
That's
at
a
one
throwback.
point, yeah, at one point he had him paint the fence simply in one direction. You paint with the grade of the fence, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. We started going across. No, stop. Up and down, up and down. It kind of sound like your story. You got to spray this way. You got to do it that way. But at the end of the day, he was teaching them how to block high and low, with that lesson. And that lessons applies to this episode, pun intended, with the painting of the fence. So but in this sense, we're using it for your business and in a relationship to the stock market, because simple is better. Simple is better. If you have a lot of moving pieces, you have to maintain those moving pieces.
Correct.
And yeah, man, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, the stock market is it could be a scary place because it's so unknown and there's so much stuff inside of there. And you go into the wrong brokerage account, you go into TD Ameritrade, and you it's like you got thrown in the middle of the maze and you don't know which way to go. You know what I'm saying? And just learning user-friendly platforms, especially for someone who's just getting into it, could make or break that trader. You know what I'm saying? Because they may just give up. Oh no, I'm not doing this. And if they have it easy and they start getting a little bit of traction of navigation, there's YouTube videos, but some people don't think that way. Some people just want it simple, right? They want it simple, and so just being able to pick the right and trying to help, that us as traders, we got to be mindful of that too, and being transparent with, get you a couple brokerage accounts. Use this brokerage account for trading. Use this brokerage account for investing. Use this brokerage account for just doing options. Whatever you're doing. You don't have to stick to one brokerage account. You can go and get, this one or that one, and some of those are going to have different stocks that are not listed on that brokerage account. So at that point, us as traders is to be mindful of letting, new traders and trying to guide them into, hey, you go into TD Ameritrade, it's going to be a little more complicated. You go into Fidelity, it's a little more simple, but it's a little more straightforward. You go into Weeble's a little more user friendly, and there's a community in there. You can chat, talk to people in there. You go into Robinhood. Robinhood is probably going to be your most user friendly, straight. But at the end of the day, with those brokerage accounts, with Robinhood, you might not be able to trade for 30, 45 minutes. Whereas in Webull, they might pause something for, 3 or 4 minutes because of the brokerage account and the structure and the community and the back end that they have with that company. So there's a lot of things that you want to be able to put in thought, especially if you're putting your money into it. You know what I mean?
Snatch that out of my mouth. See what brokerage account you recommend. You just gave us 4. And I think that's enough for people to make a decision. Tap into the Bullish Picks podcast. It has a whole episode on it. Brokerage breakdown. Check that out. Also. But no, yeah. I know what you mean by being like the stock market is a scary place because there's so much unknown. Like I was kicking it with my brother-in-law, and no knowledge of the market. But I tell him, I'm right here. You can pick my brain. I remember where I knew nothing. I couldn't pay nobody to teach me because there was no one around at the time. But now it's everywhere. You got YouTube, you got people actively trading the market. I tell you what I know. And, he was just simply talking about volume. He's like, what's that on the chart? That's volume, man. It's different ways to look at it. He's asking me, why the prices are fluctuating. It's buying and selling, and, just give him the general spiel of it, just to give him an idea so that it's not as scary, but again, tell him, you can go on YouTube. If you want to sit down and talk to me about it, we can talk about it. You know, if you want to get deeper into it, I bring someone else into the conversation that knows more. You know, and it's like I try to do that with everybody in my circle. You know, and again, if people's tuning in, like if you want to tap into someone, you know, you can hit me up. I'll send you to the right person because I only know so much. You know, you can tap in with Dr. Bull. You know what I'm saying? His name is Doctor, okay? Because he's surgical with this. So he'll tell you something. And if you want to know more, we go to Lala. You know what I'm saying? Lala surgeon as well. You know, so it's like don't let the market, don't fear the market. Try to make it work for you. Figure out how it can make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the sentiment I have. And then after a while, you're gonna start having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, you know, looking at, you know, oh, this company, they publicly traded. You know, you can look them up real quick. All this stuff is free on your phone. You know, everybody got a phone. You can download Yahoo Finance, Sink or Swim. Even these brokerage accounts, you can look up the information, which all of them have apps, all of them. So it's like, you know, that's my stock market soapbox. You know, I develop a passion for it, and I think most people can too, because it's definitely one of the larger pillars of building wealth, and I would say, in my opinion, it's the fastest. It's the fastest for sure.
Unless you're a trust fund baby, then you know you might already have wealth. So.
Well, let's. Well, good for that trust fund baby, but
yeah,
we in the space of creating trust fund babies.
I understand. I'm there.
Yeah. Oh man, because I found out how much it really costs to like do a trust. Like it's like $200 or something. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what you're trying to do. This is financial advice. I'm sharing some of my due diligence with you guys. I found out it was just like a couple $100, and I even found a way you could do it for free. And I was like, whoa. And really and truly, you're just protecting your assets. That's it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm about to have me some trust fund kids for sure. You know, so.
And it makes it easier to pass down to your legacy because they inherit the whole trust, whereas they inherit everything and they kind of get a way of taxes from that too. So like, you know, say you have a house and stuff like that. If you directly, you know, you put it in a will and you give it to your kid, they have to pay the taxes on that capital gains tax. Whereas if you have it in a trust, they don't have to pay those taxes because it's in that trust.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just an inheritor of that trust, and the trust owns that asset. So the trust is going to be there forever, and you may the ownership of that, it may transfer, but you get away from paying those capital gains tax.
See, and that's a good nugget there, man. I guess we could land the plane there, man. Learned a lot from you, and I appreciate you coming on. Well, first, is there anything I missed that you would like to speak on?
No, man. Everything's good. I just appreciate you having me on, man, and you know, letting me share my story and my journey in life. So the only thing I could tell you guys is that, you know, just don't give up. You know, even if you're staying stagnant or even if you're just chilling, or no, just don't give up. If you know it's coming and you're building up that energy for you to go up that hill, and some people may not understand that, but as long as you understand your purpose and you know what your vision is and you stick to that and you prepare and you plan and you execute, I promise you're going to get to where you want to go.
And boom, there it is. I'm gonna sign out, but I want you to stay on the line here. That's another nugget for y'all. This is the Entrepreneur Kickback with Dr. Bull. We out.
Peace.
Okay. All right, and let me end this recording.